program continues to proceed smoothly. Regarding non-standard monetary policy measures, following the announced review of the public sector purchase program's issue share limit after the first 6 months of purchases, the Governing Council decided to increase the issue share limit from the initial limit of 25% to 33%, subject to a case-by-case verification that this would not create a situation whereby the Eurosystem would have a blocking minority power, in which case the issue share limit would remain at 25%. Underlying our monetary policy assessment was a review of recent data, new staff macroeconomic projections, and an interim evaluation of recent market fluctuations. The information available indicates a continued, though somewhat weaker, economic recovery and a slower increase in inflation rates compared with earlier expectations. More recently, renewed downside risks have emerged to the outlook for growth and inflation. However, owing to sharp fluctuations in financial and commodity markets, the Governing Council judged it premature to conclude on whether these developments could have a... Accordingly, the Governing Council will closely monitor all relevant incoming information. It emphasizes its willingness and ability to act, if warranted, by using all the instruments available within its mandate, and in particular, recalls that the asset purchase program provides sufficient flexibility in terms of adjusting the size, composition, and duration of the program. In the meantime, we will fully implement our monthly asset purchases of 60 billion euros. These purchases have a favorable impact on the cost and availability of credit for firms and households. They are intended to run until the end of September 2016 or beyond, if necessary, and in any case, until we see a sustained adjustment in the path of inflation that is consistent with our aim of achieving inflation rates below but close to 2% over the medium term. Reflected in the September 2015 ECB staff macroeconomic projections for the euro area, which foresee annual HICP inflation at 0.1% in 2015, 1.1% in 2016, and 1.7% in 2017. In comparison with the June 2015 Eurosystem staff macroeconomic projections, the outlook for HICP inflation has been revised down, largely owing to lower oil prices. Taking into account the most recent developments in oil prices and recent exchange rates, there are downside risks to the September staff inflation projections. In this context, the Governing Council will closely monitor the risks to the outlook for price developments over the medium term. We will focus in particular on the pass-through of our monetary policy measures, as well as on global economic, financial, commodity price, and exchange rate developments. Turning to the monetary analysis, recent data confirm robust growth in broad money, M3. The annual growth rate of M3 was 5.3% in July, compared with 4.9% in June. Annual growth in M3 continues to be increasingly supported by its most liquid components, with a narrow monetary aggregate M1 growing at an annual rate of 12.1% in July, compared with the 11.7% in June. Loan dynamics continue to improve. The annual rate of change of loans to non-financial corporations increased to 0.9 and accelerate the benefits of reforms, thereby making the euro area more resilient to global shocks. Fiscal policies should support the economic recovery while remaining in compliance with the Stability and Growth Pact. Full and consistent implementation of the Pact is crucial for confidence in our fiscal framework. We are now at your disposal for questions.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Order filled.
Order. Mr. O'Donnell.
John O'Donnell from Reuters. You have projected an inflation rate or inflation growth rate of 0.1% for this year.
To achieve a target that's not really attainable or not really appropriate anymore. Thank you.
Target filled.
Thank you. On the first question relates to the exchange rate. I've said several times that the exchange rate is very important for growth, to these policies not being used in a competitive fashion, and you know the statement of the G20. So when we describe a situation where the exchange rate has produced certain effects, we want to give us a description of what's happened. On the inflation rate, your second question, this is an increase in, well, we shouldn't forget that 10, maybe 12, 13 years ago, a quite similar discussion was taking place, whether we should look at perhaps the core inflation, perhaps the headline inflation, and we decided to look at the headline inflation as our objective, which doesn't mean that we are excluding all other definitions of inflation. In fact, in our analysis, both economic and monetary analysis, we use both concepts. But our mandate is defined in terms of headline inflation.
Order pending.
You also said whether this is the 2% as an objective is still reasonable or not. We haven't discussed that. We haven't discussed that, and it's in a sense, it's kind of, it would test, I think, our credibility if we were to change target when it's taking more effort to achieve that target.
Order filled.
So there hasn't been any discussion about changing target of inflation.
Mr. Nikas?
Order pending.
Sotiris Nikas from Greek newspaper Καθημερινή. Let me focus on Greece. Is it accurate that in the Eurogroup the ECB insisted on excluding a depositor bail-in for Greece? And is this scenario still on the table? And what about the bail-in of senior bondholders? This is my first question. The second question is, now that Greece has completed the first set of prior actions and got a disbursement approved from ESM, when will the ECB be in a position to reinstate the waiver for Greek collateral? And will this make Greek bonds eligible for a QE program? And one comment about the today decision for ELA, the reduced, which the ceiling was reduced. Thank you.
Yes, it's true. The ECB insisted to exclude any bail-in of depositors for the Greek banks. The ECB deemed any such measure to be counterproductive for the economic recovery and harmful. The point is about a waiver. Well, for having a waiver, for reinstating a waiver, the country has to be in a program for financial assistance, has to comply with it, and so has to show strong ownership and consistent and significant implementation. There will be